Mic check, check 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2.
Good morning. Friends and family, welcome to the Winter 2024 Baylor University School of Law Commencement Ceremony. That is absolutely the right response. What a wonderful morning this is. This is a time for memory and for celebration of what these graduates have accomplished. What they've accomplished thus far, as well as anticipation for what they will accomplish in the future. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. To open our ceremony, I call on Stephen Daniel Ari, a member of the graduating class, to ask a blessing on our time together. Stephen.
And gentlemen, please do remove your hats. Heavenly Father, we come before you now, first and foremost in gratitude for this momentous occasion. We pray that you will continue to bless us, keep us, and above all else, ensure that we continue on a path toward justice. Let us never forget where we came from. Let us always be looking toward where we will go. And Father in heaven, ensure that we keep your word with all that we do. In your holy name, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Graduates, you may be seated. Thank you, Stephen. Stephen was selected by his classmates to give the invocation. Later, Allison Towson Britton, our highest-ranking student, will deliver her remarks on behalf of the class. As I look out, I see the joy on the faces of the graduates, their family, their friends, and with good reason. It's been a long journey, a journey that started perhaps many years ago when you graduates first decided you wanted to go to law school. You worked hard to reach this day. But of course, you didn't reach this day on your own. You had lots of people along the way, from family and friends who cared deeply for you. Whether that support took the form of encouraging words, care packages, kudos for accomplishments, or maybe a little bit commiserating along the way when you were down, and perhaps even a little bit of nagging. Either way, there were people who walked with you. They're here, and I think it's appropriate to recognize them. So I'm going to ask our graduates to stand up, turn around, and applaud the people who walked this journey with you. You may be seated. I know how important family and friends are. It's evident in the insert where so many of you thanked your family and friends for their support during this time. So once again, family and friends, thank you for being with these graduates as they embarked on this journey. Now, I hope you'll indulge me just a little bit. I'm not going to talk real long, so you don't have the, oh, geez, how long is she going to talk? I'm not going to talk very long. But I want to talk just a little bit about our program. Many years ago, one of my colleagues coined the phrase, Baylor Law, where fun goes to die. It appeared on T-shirts. It was repeated often. And even when said tongue-in-cheek, I kind of resented that. Because the truth is, I think we have a lot of fun at the law school. I hope we're going to have a lot of fun today as well as celebrating these graduates. But to the extent that statement refers to the rigor of our program, we take great pride in how we train students to be highly competent ethical lawyers who understand that our profession is one of service. My colleagues and I believe we owe an obligation not only to our students, but to the clients that they will serve in both their professional lives and the people that they will help and serve in their non-professional lives. Our special skills mean that often people seek out our services in times that are some of the most challenging in their lives. A key component of our mission is service. It is critical. We are a faith-based law school, and we take our faith mission seriously. I want to quote Marion Wright Edelman, founder of the Children's Defense Fund, who said, "Service is the rent we pay for being. It is the very purpose of life and not something you do in your spare time." Our commitment to service is borne out in our clinics and our pro bono programs. At the law school, we don't compel service. We don't have to. We have so many students who understand the obligation to do service in some way. And so we have many students who participate in our pro bono clinics, in our other pro bono programs, and do a number of things, heeding the call of service. My colleagues and I are proud that over the past 15 or 16 years, our programs have earned more than 15 awards from the American Bar Association, the State Bar of Texas, Texas Access to Justice, and a number of other organizations. Service is important. And I want to turn our attention to another group that heeded the call to service, and that's our men and women who have served in the military. For years, an important part of our commencement service is to recognize those individuals. We recognize that we would not be able to do what we do as guardians of the law without the protection and security provided by the armed forces for our national security and the protection of our rights. Too often we fail to note the symbiosis that exists between the services of our men and women in uniform and the work we do as lawyers. So at this time, I ask all who served in any branch of the military, whether you are active, reserve, or retired, to stand so that we may recognize you. Thank you to each of you for your service, and I will note that we had several of our graduates who also served in the military. Allow me, if you will, to briefly introduce my colleagues who are on the stage. I will introduce our graduation speaker, Professor White, in a little bit, but allow me to give brief introductions of my other colleagues who are on the stage. Their more complete bios are part of the program, and I will also introduce President Livingstone at a later point. But first, I'd like to start with Associate Dean Matt Corden. As I indicated, Matt is our Associate Dean. He's acting on an interim basis, and I'm grateful that he graciously agreed to step into that position during our time of transition at the law school. As if that wasn't enough, he continues to serve as the director of our legal writing program, and he is a professor of law. And he has 2 black belts in 2 different martial arts disciplines. So I'll just leave that with you. Senior Assistant Dean Angela Cruz-Turner. I've known Dean Cruz-Turner many years, but it's been my pleasure to work with her for the past several years in the Dean's office. She's a delight to work with, proving herself to be creative and thoughtful in handling the various administrative tasks for which she has responsibility. And she doesn't just work at the law school, she's very involved in the community, serving on the boards of the McLennan County Dispute Resolution Center and the board of the McLennan County Bar Association, among others. Is it any wonder that Dean Cruz-Turner has been recognized as the Young Baylor Lawyer of the Year and also as the McLennan County Outstanding Young Lawyer? Angela, thank you, and thank you, Matt, for all you do for the law school. I'd like to also introduce the individuals that will be hooding our graduates. As many of you know, one of the highlights of earning a higher degree is receiving an academic hood. The hood is a visual representation of an individual's success in the academy that they have completed their degree. Having earned the Juris Doctor degree, our students are eligible to receive the longer hood. Ooh, that's what you should say, because that's a big deal. Our tradition at Baylor is that the class chooses who will confer their hoods, placing the hood over their heads and welcoming them into the ranks of those who have similarly attained their degrees. The students select from among the faculty and staff who have earned their Juris Doctor degrees, and they have chosen well. So they will be hooded by Professor Jim Wren, who is, as noted in the program, holds the Leon Jaworski Chair of Practice and Procedure and serves as our Director of the Practice Court Program. I'm guessing you might have heard just a little bit about the Practice Court Program because it is the defining experience for those who graduate from Baylor Law. These graduates are fortunate to have had Professor Wren as the Director of the PC program. It would be enough if they simply had an instructor who was clearly smart, and that is true of Professor Wren, having graduated from Baylor Law School summa or cum laude. However, Professor Wren had built a reputation as a premier trial lawyer before he joined our faculty, and he's been recognized with many awards as a result. Perhaps the one which impresses me most is that he was recognized by the Texas chapters of the American Board of Trial Advocates, which awarded him the Ethics and Civility Award in 2022. Professor Wren models for our students that they can be fantastically successful attorneys who zealously represent their clients without compromising their ethics or using the kinds of tactics that give lawyers a bad name. Thank you, Professor Wren, for the positive ways you influence our students. The other faculty member who will be hooding our graduates is Professor Jessica Asbridge. She joined the law faculty in the fall of 2020, and what an addition she has been. Her academic credentials are stellar, having graduated from the University of Kansas with distinction and with honors, and earning her Juris Doctor degree from Indiana University Maurer School of Law, graduating summa cum laude. Professor Asbridge teaches our first-year property course as well as upper quarter courses, and she is well on her way to developing a national reputation as a scholar, writing on the topic of eminent domain and related topics. It's not uncommon for students to initially approach property, which is one of the courses that Professor Asbridge teaches, as an uninteresting topic that they are taking only because it is required. However, Professor Asbridge gives her students a reason to enjoy property law. I hear how much they enjoy it, and somehow she manages to make life estates and fee simple subject to a condition subsequent, as well as concurrent interests in a bevy of other topics, interesting. She clearly cares about her students, and they have honored her by selecting her to hood them once they receive their degrees. Of course, those that are on the stage are only a fraction of our faculty and staff colleagues who love the law school and are deeply committed to our mission and the experience our students have while they're at Baylor. I'm going to ask our faculty and staff colleagues to stand so that we may recognize you. I'm now honored to turn the program over to our highest-ranking student, Allison Towson Britton, to offer her remarks.
Good morning. Like Dean Wilson said, my name is Allie Britton, and while my fellow graduates get to come and relax at their graduation, I have the honor of one last writing assignment and public speaking event. They did give me a time limit, which was a smart move on their part, but they did not give me a prompt, which was a bold move on their part. But when deciding what to speak about, I decided I would delegate that brain power to my fellow classmates, and I got their input on what they would want to hear at their graduation. So I'm going to start with some of the things they told me nobody wants to hear about. I was told nobody wants to hear the "yay, we made it" speech, so no congrats from me. I was told everyone is tired of hearing about COVID, so I will not mention how we started in a pandemic and all of the fun that came with that. I was told that no one wants a boring speech about the woes of being a law student or the joys of becoming a lawyer. That one was a bit aggressive, but duly noted nonetheless. So I apologize to anyone who is wanting a deep or heartfelt speech. This will not be one of them, and I direct you to YouTube, where there are plenty. Now, I did get one suggestion rather than an exclusion. I and quite a few of my classmates graduated, got our undergraduate degree from Texas A&M. And I was told that it might be cool to hear what it's like now graduating from a school that's not a cult. what he meant by that, so I'm going to leave the Aggie jokes to Professor White. So I did get a lot of great input, but what I settled on was reflecting on some nuggets of wisdom that we've gotten over our last 3 years. We've been privileged to learn from some of the top legal minds, and I wanted to remind and equip everybody with some of these quotes as we go into our professional career. Our very first quarter, we did take property with Professor Asbridge, and there was one student in particular who was suspiciously persistent about asking questions on how landlords could evade their responsibilities and duties under the law without getting in trouble, to which Professor Asbridge very succinctly responded, "You know there's an ethics portion to this profession, right?" So that was important for us to learn in our very first year. This next quote is one that me and my friends really call back on frequently during the deep trenches of the sadness of law school. And it was in our second quarter, we were just getting into the research and writing portion of our classes, and my future PC partner and I, we just weren't getting the hang of the research part of it. We weren't enjoying it like we did the advocacy, the arguing portion. Well, we ran into a professor in the hallway, and he asked us how we were doing, how we were coping with our second quarter, and we said, you know, we're really struggling with the research and writing part of the law. And he kind of pondered that a little bit, and he goes, well, maybe the law just isn't for you. So we like to call back on that every time and just remind ourselves that maybe the law's not for us. Next, in civil procedure, we discussed alternative methods for service of process, and we learned a valuable lesson that when trying to ascertain the age of a resident to see if they're old enough to receive process, Conrad, what do we not say? Hey, kiddo, how old are you? For the last few quotes, I thought I would reflect on the wide range of things that we learned during PC. And for anyone that doesn't know what PC is, you haven't talked to your graduate in the last 6 months because it's been our entire personality. But the one-line elevator pitch is that it's basically litigation boot camp. It has a classroom portion, it has a courtroom advocacy portion. So starting from the classroom portion, Professor Wren taught us to always trust but verify. Professor Counselor taught us that AI might be used to cure cancer or find something faster than the speed of light, and hopefully not to take over the entire human race. Fingers crossed. Professor Fraley taught us not to be vague to the point of being unhelpful, to be interesting and not boring. And on the last day of class, she tasked us with restoring faith in the entire legal and judicial system. So add that to your to-do list if you haven't already. For the advocacy portion, I've been yelled at so many times by Robert Little that he actually formed the voice of my subconscious every time I walk into a courtroom. So it's hard to narrow down from that list. But he taught us to always watch your face at counsel table, to take risks, don't be a chicken, to tell the story of a case like you would to your friends around a dinner table. All right, now try that again and act like you've talked to another human being before, because that definitely didn't sound like it. And also he taught us that Paddington Bear was a top 5 movie. And I'm not sure how that related to advocacy, but he said it so many times that I thought it deserved a place in this speech. Much like today's honor, my PC partner and I had the honor of standing up in front of our class of 128 people to give a demonstration on a cross and direct examination and be aggressively critiqued for 3 hours by all of the PC professors who have years of legal experience and vastly different styles. To give you some insight into that experience, we got pulled aside before it even started and said, so this is to pick you apart, everything you do, to teach the class what not to do, but don't take it personally. That was a real confidence booster. And some direct quotes from that experience include, do you know you are capable of walking and talking at the same time? On the one hand, you have great courtroom presence. On the other hand, you are so scripted I could slap you. You both seem to think that your fingers will fly off of your hand into the multiverse if you don't hold on to them. That is in fact not true. They are firmly attached. So while your graduates may not have gotten those direct quotes, I encourage you to ask them what quotes they did get from PC. Now, Google says that every great speech ends with a call to action, and that's not unlike what we've heard from a closing argument. So for everyone that was hoping for a cheesy, heartfelt speech, you can tune back in now, because you'll like this part. These last 3 years have not been easy, especially these last 6 months. I remember starting PC and just thinking how badly I wanted to get it over with, but then realizing as soon as it was over, all of it was over. We would be here. Someone who hates change, that was a very sad and terrifying thought, but it has been a true honor to walk through this experience with all of you. And I am so grateful that all of the stars aligned to get us all here at the exact same time. And like Dean Wilson said, it truly takes a village to get us where we are today. So to everyone in this room who supported us along the way, thank you for everything you've done. We would not have maintained the level of sanity, albeit low, that we did without your help. Frankly, I'm also not sure if law school speeds up time, but we've seemed to experience what most people take a decade to experience in the last 3 years. We've been through all phases of life, new relationships, engagements, weddings, breakups, losing loved ones, and the entire spectrum of human emotion, and all while juggling an unbelievably challenging academic load. But while we've grown a lot and changed a lot, one message has rung true since the very first day of orientation. It is a massive privilege to earn this degree and everything that comes with it. And it is true that with that privilege comes an equally massive responsibility. But we've been given the opportunity to affect real people's lives and make a real difference in this world. A voice for the voiceless, if you will. And up until this point, it's been primarily about us, our grades, our internships, our future jobs. But now it's not about us. It's about the lives we touch, the clients we serve, the people and the school we are out there representing. So my ask is that we don't forget that. That we wake up every day, recognize that privilege, put one foot in front of the other, and leave the world a better place than we found it. Congratulations, and thank you.
Allie, thank you. That was a wonderful speech, and I hope you will take her words to heart. It is a privilege that you will not forget that and that you won't forget us. We'll keep saying that. Don't forget, come back to the law school. Congratulations again, Allie. It truly is a privilege to be at the law school, and what an accomplishment you have achieved. Baylor Law is one of the most competitive law schools, and so it's no small feat to be recognized as the highest ranking student. I now want to introduce the graduation speaker, Greg White. The class has chosen Greg White to give their commencement address. He is retired now, and he did so at the end of the last academic year, but no doubt he is quite busy, because if there was ever a Renaissance man, it is Professor White. Prior to joining the law faculty on a full-time basis as a lecturer, he had established himself as a wonderful, excellent appellate lawyer, working on cases heard by the federal circuit courts, the state appellate courts, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, and the Texas Supreme Court. During that time, he also served, before he joined our faculty on a full-time basis, as one of our adjunct professors teaching legal writing and civil procedure, among other courses. How fortunate we are that he joined our faculty on a full-time basis in 2016 to teach in our legal writing program. Because of his years of experience, we considered him a utility player, as they say in baseball, a utility player available to teach a wide variety of courses, including persuasive writing in LARC 3, litigation drafting in LARC 5, appellate practice, and assisting with practice court exercises, teaching Civ Pro. I especially appreciated when Professor White would guest judge the moot court teams that I coached. I could count on him to take our arguments that may have been legally and technically solid and to give our students advice on how to elevate them into compelling, persuasive arguments that often led to championship teams. Faith is important to Professor White, and he is active in his church. As I alluded, Professor White is a man of many interests and activities. Faith and caring for others are important to him, and he is a particularly loyal friend. His interests include organic gardening, keeping up his horse ranch, and cooking and grilling. And just recently, he was kind enough to bring to the law school for faculty and staff some of his gumbo. So he's the kind of friend you always want to have. Class, you have selected well. I now turn the program over to Professor White.
So when I speak in public, whether it's to a small class, to a room full of people, or even to a court, I tend to approach it with a degree of trepidation. I fully am aware that people may not like what I have to say. But given the importance of this occasion, I did not want that to happen. So I prepared. I read, I studied, I prayed. That's about the same order that you prepare for a law school exam. But in any event, I am now the husband that read the instructions before assembling the IKEA shelves. I'm the dad that looked at the map before the road trip started. I'm ready to go, so let's start. I have two stories today, one for the parents and one for the graduates. When I say parents, I want to include spouses, grandparents, brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, and anybody else who is so special to these people who are graduating that they wore something other than their regular Saturday clothes today. If you're not in any of that group and you came here out of another obligation or just out of curiosity, there's something for you too. This is one of those times that you get to see love right in front of your eyes. By the time the day ends today, everybody in this room is going to have respect and gratitude and amazement at the other part. That makes everybody really happy. Now, for those of you in the parent group, I have a sense of what's going on with you. I sat in a seat very similar to your seat when my youngest daughter graduated from Baylor Law School. And I know that it's a unique occasion. It's unique because it's one of the only times you will ever be able to pass on an inheritance while you're alive. We usually think of inheritance as being the leaving property or money to somebody after we're gone, but because we're gone, we never know whether the property or the money was used for good or evil. We can only hope or guess about it. But today there is an inheritance that is being passed on to the graduates, but it has nothing to do with property or money. We know, here's what I mean about that. When we go through life, we come to points where we have to make decisions. We have to go one direction or another. We have to make a choice. And we remember them, whether they turned out to be good or bad. And if we don't remember them, there'll be somebody around us who will remember them. There was a man in the Bible named Methuselah who lived 969 years, and I'm pretty sure that Mrs. Methuselah constantly reminded him of some bad decision he made 827 years ago. But today you see your graduate at a point that you recognize, at a point that you have yourself faced. It is that special crossroads where things will be very different tomorrow, than they are today. And your graduate may be traveling the same path that you did. And if that's so, you still hope that their experience turns out different and better than yours. Your graduate may be traveling a different path than you did. They may have a different opportunity. They may have made a different decision, about what they wanted to do. But no matter what the decision is, that's the inheritance that you get to see. You will watch what you hoped for your graduate bloom into reality. You get to see what your time and treasure has built in your graduate. And I know, because I sat where you sat one time, that it's very exciting to think about what the future looks like for them. And the excitement that you have is almost enough to touch. Now, I may be describing today in terminology that you did not expect, but experience tells us that everybody that comes to this feels that same way. And I know that because we constantly voice the same words and phrases at these occasions, and I want to take a moment to think about 3 of those phrases that are commonly used. Now, the first of those is the phrase that we most often say to our graduate. We tell them we're proud of them. But those 6 words, "I'm so proud of you," mean much more. Here's what they mean. I loved you the first time I saw you. I had hopes for you in late nights, early mornings, and tired afternoons. I counseled you. I cajoled. I corrected. I suffered when you suffered, and I worked at my job to provide for you so that you could see that I loved you. I cried when you left. I smiled every time I heard from you. And here you are, smarter, more diligent, and more prepared than I ever dreamed you would be. It's been worth every sad moment to be at this happy one. I love you and I always will. So all of y'all, when you hear somebody say, "I'm proud of you," that's what they want you to hear, even if their heart's too full to say it all. Now, the second one is a statement that we make about our graduate to our friends. When we tell our friends that we are soon going to have a lawyer among us, we usually get in response their favorite lawyer joke. Or we get an eye roll or a kind of a side eye that says, "Don't we have enough lawyers in this world already?" And our response to that is to be polite and to say, well, I don't really know what kind of lawyer they're going to be. I just want them to be happy. And that's polite and appropriate, but it's not what you mean. Because we all know that happiness is unrealistic and unnecessary and overrated. What we really know is that life is a day-to-day struggle. And the fact that it is a day-to-day struggle makes the blessings we receive all the more meaningful. What we really want is for our graduate to get through the universal struggle in a way that makes them better and makes the world around them better. There was a time when you thought that your graduate was not prepared to deal with that struggle and that it was your job to protect them. Not anymore. They are well prepared and they are ready. Here's where your story comes in. Anne Graham Lotz is a former Baylor regent and a marvelous Bible teacher. Her daddy is Billy Graham, so maybe it's not surprising that she is. She tells the story of Robert Louis Stevenson. Robert Louis Stevenson wrote Treasure Island and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, if you're trying to remember why you know that name. As he was growing up, he was tended to by a nanny, a kind of a Mary Poppins person that was responsible for putting him to bed. One time she went in to check on him to make sure he was in bed. She saw him looking out the window. Outside, there was a man walking down the street with a long stick with a fire on the end of it. And he was lighting the lamps that were oil-fueled along the street. And the nanny said, "What are you doing?" And Robert Louis said, "I'm watching the man put holes in the darkness." That's the story of I want them to be happy in a way that you could not, in a way that you did not, and in ways that you can't imagine. You want your graduate to be able to put holes in the darkness of this world. I can tell you that your hopes about that are well-founded. Today is a day marking success for your graduate, but success is not just reaching your own goal. It's reaching a goal in a way that benefits others. And your graduate could not have received better training to do exactly that. It's not just that they learned more law or that they had better professors. They did. The bigger lesson they learned is that Baylor lawyers do the right thing for the right reasons. Baylor lawyers get called upon because of their expertise or their skills. People call for help, and Baylor lawyers answer. People need something done today, and Baylor lawyers step up. Your Baylor lawyer is in this to make the world a better place, sometimes for ordinary people in ordinary ways, but very often in lasting and significant ways. Baylor lawyers put holes in the darkness, and that's what makes all the struggle worth it for them. The last phrase we hear on this occasion comes from the graduates, and they say, "We made it." And they did. That's fair. And we come to these things to kind of celebrate the end of a 3-year path to a degree. We talk about the hardships and challenges that have been faced and overcome, and it's now at an end. The graduates are finally going to get the cardboard tube they worked so hard for. They have read hundreds of cases. They have heard hundreds of lectures. They have seen thousands of PowerPoint slides. They've passed every test. And our idea to honor them for that is to put them in an uncomfortable costume with a rather odd-looking hat. And they'll do it. And they'll wear it, and they'll say with pride, "We made it." And if I hear them say, "We made it," my response to them is, "You're not done." So if you hear them say, "We made it," get ready, because this is only the first time you're going to hear something great about your Baylor lawyer. You can expect to be more amazed and more glad and more proud of the person they've become. You may say that you don't want to hear all this lawyer talk at your Thanksgiving table, but when they're gone and you're alone, you are going to cry tears of joy with the amazement of what your lawyer has become. Now, I hope that I have introduced you to the person that you came to see graduate. They are very different from when they left home and came here. But isn't it wonderful to see what your inheritance has wrought? Now, for the graduates, I told you I had a story for you. I have a poem. One of America's best-loved poems is "The Road Not Taken," and you've heard it before. "Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. But be one traveler long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. And I took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. But as for that, the passing there had left them both about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no steps had trodden black. But I left the other for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I would ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the road less traveled by, and that has made all the difference." We think about that poem, and we think about a traveler who saw two choices, one of them more challenging, more difficult, and we applaud him for his courage in taking that path. But if you read the road carefully, both roads were really about the same. Both were just as fair. And becoming a lawyer at some law schools is not a less traveled road. No, the road to some law schools and medical schools and dental schools and business schools is really about the same and just as fair. But you took this road. You delved into pure mystery your first year with property and contracts and torts, criminal law and civil procedure. But you finished thinking you were pretty comfortable with the law until you started your second year and figured out you had to take T&E and BizOrg and tax. So you sought solace in your electives until you learned that conflict of laws and secured transactions and family law were no solace whatsoever. I won't talk much about your third year because your moaning about that is getting a little old. But the road to here has been a less traveled road. And even if it started looking the same at the beginning, it has made a difference that you traveled that road. And here's the difference. What you learned outside of class is that most of the people that traveled this road before you are still on that road. Today is just a pause in a lifetime of service and fulfillment and joy in what you do. So your charge from your professors, from your classmates, and from every Baylor lawyer that came before you is to go out and put holes in the darkness of this world. Now, doing that will mean that you will have to ignore some popular thinking about what your future should look like. You will undoubtedly have small conversations with yourself that will impact whether you are able to be a true difference maker. First thing you'll say is, well, I am shooting for a successful career. Now, I will admit that the educational process at Baylor Law School is designed to put rank and achievement and status anxiety at front of mind. And we have heard that Baylor Law School is the most competitive law school in the nation. It is remotely possible that I contributed to some anxiety in some of the students. And if I did, I want to say I'm sorry, a little sorry. But the problem is that the drive for high rank puts in us a lifelong belief that if you are successful, life will be good. People that have tasted success will tell you that's not true. Success may spare you a bit of embarrassment you may suffer if you think you failed at something. But success alone will not bring you fulfillment and joy. If you build your life around pursuing career success, you will find your ambition always racing out in front of your achievement. You will find yourself always running, constantly tired, and never finished. Without anything else, career success will overwhelm your ability to make a difference. Second, you're going to say, well, at least I'm going to make a lot of money. And it's embarrassing to think that we might say that people that have money are better than people that don't. The problem is that popular thinking reinforces that. It causes us to believe that our value as a person is equal to what others are willing to pay us. It causes us to assume that we will earn dignity if we attach ourselves to prestige. And it urges us to think that if we perform well, people will love us. Society says that people are not souls to be saved, but skills to be monetized. Don't buy into that. Turn your back on the idea that money makes you a better person. It doesn't. And it will never guarantee that you will make a difference in life. Third, you're going to say, well, at least I get to decide my own goals. And I get it, because for a decade, people have been telling you what to do. Take this class, make these grades, go to this thing, make this mark. And finally, you don't have to do that anymore. But it will be replaced with things like, if I can just make partner, if I can just win the next case, if I could just close the next deal. But you have to ask yourself, is it true that everything that is important is about what happens to me? People looking back on their lives will tell you that what is valuable in life is thick and loving relationships. Value is found in life by trading our self-sufficiency with a state of mutual dependence. It is valuable to give care and receive care. No one teaches us in law school how to do that, but I'll tell you today, build and treasure relationships. Build your relationships with your colleagues, with your mentors, with your partners, with your counsel opposite, with a judge, with the staff at your office. Treasure your relationship with your family, your faith, and your friends. Don't stand alone in any part of your life. Your relationships will matter when things get hard, and your relationships will endure in the face of any struggle. Relationships will be your inspiration to make a difference in the lives of others. Fourth, you're going to say, well, I can finally decide what my truth is. And that is a horrible temptation. It would be nice if we could all decide for ourselves what is right or wrong, but we can't. People that tell you you can are leading you away from the grace of God and from your role as a lawyer. In a real world, you can't decide what is right for you alone. You can't make your own truth. Human beings only exist in harmony and peace and prosperity by honoring values created by and passed down by strong, confident communities and institutions. People absorb those values by submitting to the communities and institutions and by participating in the conversations that take place within them. It's got to be a group process. And that's why the rule of law is so important. It's the glue that binds us to each other. And even though the rules and values change, and even though the rules and values may sour over time, and even if you don't agree with them, they still matter. That rules matter is what you are defending. Defining and defending and honoring community values, which is a better way to say the rule of law, is the highest goal you can set for yourself while you're here on earth. And it does the most good for the most people. But it's hard and it requires some sacrifice. It requires you to give up your own personal wants in favor of the group. Now, we can fight to change the rules or change the values, and we should do that when it's appropriate. But we can never forget that there are already rules and values that the group has adopted and lives by. And we can never pretend that there are some people that are exempt from the rules that all of us have agreed to abide by. You are now the guardians of the process of defining and defending the community values. Your work in life is no longer only about you and what happens to you. It's about all of us, and we depend on you. The last thing you will talk to yourself about is, well, I will finally get to chart a path for my future. You're going to be an adult now. You're going to have a job. You've got a wonderful education. You've got a marvelous set of skills. Your options are wide open, and they will change from day to day. And popular thinking will tell you to try every option. The world believes that what matters is how many experiences you have. The person with the most experiences and the best experiences wins in the end. But people who live best tie themselves down. They don't ask, what cool thing can I do next? They ask, what is my responsibility? To whom does my loyalty lie? They are the ones that respond and solve great problems. They are the ones that respond to great need. They are the ones who are called out of themselves, out of deep love. They accomplish great things because there's great purpose behind what they do. By planting yourself in a neighborhood, a community, or a mission, you earn trust. And by binding yourself to the people and the things that have relied on your experience, your expertise, and your character, you will find your purpose, your satisfaction, and your fulfillment. In the end, you gain the freedom to make a lasting difference. It's best said by a famous quote, "It's the chains we choose that set us free." So, with those things in mind, I will invite you to walk across this stage. When you do, you will shake a hand, you may hug a neck, you'll get your picture taken. Unspoken in those small actions will be your pledge to be that lawyer who is committed to making a difference in the lives of clients and other people that you encounter. And the handshake you receive back is the pledge of everyone at this school to be beside and behind your every effort. Look to your right and left. Those people are taking that pledge with you. Look back behind you. Those people are always going to be around to encourage you. Look over there and look up here. Those people are rooting for you. And all of us before you at Baylor Law School have taken the same pledge, and we do our best to live it. Now, if you think that that is commencement speech platitude, I will look you in the eye, and I'll tell you, I'm rooting for you. I will be by your side if you ask, and I dare you to call me and take me up on it. That is the long version of the phrase that Dean Tobin coined, that Baylor lawyer is capitalized. What he means by that is that you have an army behind you, and you always will. Traveling the road to here has made all the difference in your power to put holes in the dark places of this world. So I congratulate you on getting to this point. You will leave, but you'll be back. And you'll be back and you'll start telling stories about a client or a case or a deal. And you'll tell us there were two directions you could go and they both looked about the same. And you'll tell us that you took the path that you learned to take at Baylor and what a difference it made. And I, for one, can't wait to hear those stories. All right, so most of that was probably not on your commencement speech bingo card. So if I've spoken about things you didn't expect, or I've set a bar that was beyond your imagination, I will conclude. And I'll say this: you can do this. You really can, and you should. May God bless your every effort.
I think you'll agree and understand why the class chose Professor White to be their graduation speaker. I'd now like to introduce the president of our university, Dr. Linda Livingstone. I'm delighted that she was able to join us and be part of the celebration. She has a very busy schedule, and I'm so glad that she was able to be here. When I think about leadership, I believe a leader is someone who inspires passion and motivates others to follow and to take on new challenges. I believe a good leader sets high expectations for those people that are called on to follow her. Good leaders ensure that those she is tasked with leading have the resources, financial and otherwise, to go where they might not have thought to go and to achieve things that they may not have thought possible. President Livingstone is just such a leader. She's proven herself to be an inspirational and an innovative leader who, since 2017, when she was appointed president of the university, set a goal to elevate the academics, the profile of the faculty, the quality of the student body, and our athletic programs. That she has transformed the university, not just the physical campus, but more importantly, the environment and the culture, is no surprise to anyone that has spent even a short amount of time with her. Notwithstanding her accomplishments, she is down to earth, and she is a woman of faith, and the university is strong because of her leadership. I'm particularly grateful for her support of the law school and what we do in our program. Dr. Livingstone, I call on you to speak.
Well, it's so good to see all of you, and thank you, Dean Wilson, for that introduction, and Professor White for those wonderful words, and Allie, congratulations on your accomplishments and on your remarks this morning. I do want to congratulate all of the graduates for what you have accomplished over the last 3 years. We've all heard today all that they've had to do and all that they've had to accomplish, and you truly are exceptional, not just students, but exceptional individuals who have gone through what you've done over the last 3 years and ended up here today. You know, Baylor is a very unique university, but Baylor Law is also a very unique place in the world of law schools and graduate education across this country. So you are graduating from a university that takes both the life of the mind and the life of faith very seriously. It's a distinctive educational approach that has equipped you with outstanding training that's required for worldwide leadership and service. So as graduates of Baylor and of Baylor Law, you are prepared to make a difference in the world as you leave here. You know, today as you graduate, you become part of a great legacy. Broadly, you become a part of the Baylor alumni family. We call that the Baylor line. It's been going on since 1845 across the university, but very specifically, you're now a part of the legacy of the Baylor Law family. The Baylor Law alumni family is filled with people who've made significant differences in the realms in which they touch, whether that's in Texas, across the country, or around the world. So you are now a part of that legacy of excellence. You are graduating from, as we've heard over and over this morning, one of the most rigorous law schools in the country. That has made you very resilient. It has prepared you for much of what you're going to face, not just in your law practice, but in the world. With the highest bar exam rate, pass rate in the Texas fairly consistently, it is no surprise of what a stellar reputation our law school has, and you carry that reputation with you now that you have a degree from Baylor Law. You also are now part of a legacy of service. I have met very many Baylor Law alumni as I travel around the country who are serving in state and national legislatures, in government service, in Austin or in Washington, around the country and around the world, in significant roles, whether that's in government or healthcare or business, even in nonprofits. The legacy of public service of this law school is very, very significant. You are also now a part of a legacy of integrity. You've heard that phrase used several times already this morning, ethics and integrity. As I engage with fellow Baylor lawyers, it is clear to me that Baylor lawyers take very, very seriously their commitment to legal ethics and the proper professional behavior, seeking always to uphold the standards of the profession, but also seeking to do the right thing for the right reasons for your clients. You're graduating from a law school that values not only critical thinking and professional competencies, but also character and integrity so that you can succeed both in and outside of the courtroom. I encourage you now, as you begin this next phase of your life, even in the earliest stages of your legal career, to consider what you want your personal legacy to be and how you want to contribute to the Baylor family legacy that has for so many years before you enhanced the visibility and the reputation of our law school and served society in so many important and significant ways. Pro Ecclesia, Pro Texana, Pro Futuris, for the church, for Texas and the world, for the future. For you, I hope that your legacy may be one of excellence, one of service, and one of integrity for the church, for Texas and the world, and for the future. Congratulations to you. I look forward to congratulating you as you receive your diplomas.
It is now my pleasure to present the class. Class, would you please stand? President Livingstone, each of the candidates before you have completed the requirements for the degree of Juris Doctor as prescribed by the faculty of the School of Law and by Baylor University, acting through the authority of the Board of Regents. It is my pleasure to present the class to you for the conferral of the degrees.
Each of you has completed the requirements for the degree of Juris Doctor as set forth by the Baylor University School of Law. Upon the certification of the faculty of the School of Law and on behalf of the Baylor University Board of Regents and myself, it is my distinct honor and pleasure to confer upon you the degree of Juris Doctor. Congratulations.
We will now proceed to the awarding of the diplomas and the hooding of each of the graduates. Graduates, except for those who are about to enter the stage, you're welcome to sit. This is probably my favorite part of the ceremony because, friends and family, while we recognize that the ceremony is one that requires an appropriate degree of respect and decorum, we have a tradition at Baylor Law School. When the name of your loved one is called, you are encouraged to make as much noise as you can. And make no mistake, while we're often warned about judging others, we are totally judging you. We're judging you based on the degree of enthusiasm you show for your graduate. Indeed, we measure the depth of your love by the decibels you produce. So, while we don't give out awards, we just note the families that are like really celebrating. So we encourage you, let your joy ring out. And with that, let's begin.
Our first graduate is a candidate for a Juris Doctor and Master of Divinity degree, David Anaya Huvera. Greta Walleen Anderson, cum laude. Kyle Ryan Anderson. Savannah Elizabeth Bond. Allison Towson Britton, summa cum laude, highest ranking student in the graduating class. Blake Michael Bryan. Casey Michelle Cooper, cum laude. William Thomas Cronin, cum laude. Elena Maria Folgueras. The next graduate could not be in attendance today, William Cole Geist, magna cum laude. Haley Ann Hashem. Cannon Parker Hill. Colton Everett Hickson. Austin Andrew Emro. The next graduate has earned a special distinction in criminal practice, Conager Douglas Jones. Logan Adele Jones. Macy Marie Sage Jones. The next graduate has earned a special distinction in public interest, Aaron Michael Juppy. The next graduate is a Leadership Fellow, Reese Watson Clapper. Stephen Daniel Lowry. Mackenzie Lynn McIntyre. Grace Elizabeth Needham. Drake Hunter Pugh. Jordan Taylor Pratt, cum laude. Conrad Stewart Scott. Edward Anthony Sotelo. Madison Rebecca Stahl. Our next graduate is a public interest fellow, Rashawn Terrell Stevens. Mark Frederick Thomas. Emily Lane Ullum, cum laude. Our next graduate is a Public Interest Fellow, Alicia Janelle Willoughby. Riley Weston Zoke, magna cum laude.
Well, you all did well. I applaud you for applauding them. In just a moment, we'll close the formal part of our celebration. And as we do, just a few last-minute notes. First, the celebration continues at the Law Center immediately following our adjournment here. The Baylor Law Alumni Association is sponsoring a reception where you and your graduates can enjoy refreshments, take pictures, and they can show you where they've spent so much of their time the last few years. Second, we will recess out. I ask that you remain seated just for a few minutes to allow the faculty and graduates to recess. In fact, I ask you to remain seated because we're going to do this thing where we're going to walk out that door back there, and then we're going to come right back in that door over there, and we're going to gather up here, the graduates and the faculty, to take a group picture. I have one request, and that is let us get organized and let the photographer take a picture. But then the graduates are going to stay put for just a brief period of time to allow you to get your own picture if you'd like to do that. So professional photographer first, and then if you want to get a picture, we'll hold our positions for just a brief period of time. Before we end, I'd like to thank those who are instrumental in organizing graduation. That includes some of our staff colleagues, Jerry Cunningham, Susie Daniel, Lauren Porter, Nick Texera, Rick Soul, Ricky Levecki, and Sam Smith, who has organized the reception for us later on. I also want to recognize our student workers. They're undergraduates for the most part who help us in so many ways. And that includes, I'm just going to call you by your first name, but many of them are sitting right over there. Mike, Justin, Reagan, Bella, Emily, Mari, and Shahina. And of course, I want to thank our pianist, Chris Womack. So, that pretty much concludes our ceremony. I'd like to end with a quote from the 18th century Anglican cleric and theologian John Wesley, a reminder for us all. Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as you can. Graduates, you're ready to represent Baylor Law well. Congratulations.